One of the things that a JRPG can do to really get me invested is give me something amazing to explore. And for me, as a lover of retro JRPGs, the world map embodies that. Some people say, it's just the illusion of exploration, but I don't think that's always the case. Even if it is, I'll take it. It feels like exploration to me. I don't really think it's the case for the most part, but there are certain games that go the extra mile with this and just throw an entirely new world at you mid-game, and I'll never complain about that. There'll be some light spoilers, but just in the fact that all the games I'll be talking about open up into at least one second world as you're playing them. So let's talk about some of the games that did this the best. I feel like you can't really get started in talking about various JRPGs without talking at least a little bit about Final Fantasy, and in this case, it is the same. Here we're specifically talking about Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy V, both great games that have different ways that are pretty unique to do this. In Final Fantasy IV, it doesn't happen until much later in the game, though you could make an argument that it does happen twice. First, when you enter the hole to the underworld, and then again when you take a trip on a whale to the moon. Both incredible moments, especially for the time. We're talking about the 90s here, and this wasn't exactly a common occurrence. Not that flying whales make too many appearances unless you're a Kojima game, right? In Final Fantasy V, you're first transported to Galif's world in order to continue your journey to find and protect the crystals, and of course save the world, but things go a little bit crazy, and there's eventually a third world, which is a combination of the original world you started on and the second world you went to, combining the maps into one mega world, which is really cool. Definitely a cool idea. In Star Ocean, the second story, you start on the planet Expel, which is a low-tech world under siege by monsters that were increased by something called the Sorcery Globe. But at some point in the plot, you leave that planet and go to a new place called Energy Need, a much more high-tech planet. This gives you a ton of new things to explore, and the exploration feels awesome, especially in the new remake, because you can do so on the back of a giant bunny that lets you hop around the world checking out all the cool secrets, including special monsters to kill, random chests, and other goodies that you'll have to explore to find. The Tales series is no stranger to this particular thing of having more than one world. In fact, they liked it so much they did it many times, but the ones that are the most expansive and explorable are the two worlds in Tales of Symphonia and Tales of Eternia. Tales of Eternia has the worlds Eternia and Celestia that each have their own separate maps to explore, and they're pretty expansive and very different. It's actually similar to Star Ocean, the second story, with Eternia being low technology and Celestia being high technology. It creates a good contrast that you could explore in detail. Tales of Symphonia has Silverant and Tethala, two different planets that also share a similar low technology, high technology theme. Symphonia is an even bigger game than Eternia with more places to explore, but both games have very enjoyable exploration. Dragon Quest VI takes another angle with all of this, which I find super interesting. It does this by having a real world and a dream world, which are both entirely explorable and influence each other in really cool ways. Throughout the story, you'll manipulate this connection in order to solve various problems that come up, and by doing so, of course, you save the world, right? The game rewards you for exploring this relationship between the two worlds through side quests, cool lore tidbits, and even getting gear. So it's worth taking your time to test things out, see what changes as you go through the game. Don't, speed through the entire thing without even looking around. There's also an entire underwater layer to it, which is even more to explore, and it almost feels like another planet. Phantasy Star 4 is another game that does this, and it does it in a pretty cool way. This is sci-fi, so of course you have to be able to travel to different planets, or it wouldn't feel sci-fi, although there are plenty of games that don't do that. But while you're doing that, you can also get various vehicles that not only have you riding around in them, but they also have their own stats and abilities during battles, so you'll need to utilize the various vehicles in order to get through certain parts of the various worlds, of which there are three: Motavia, Desolus, and Rykros, which I completely butchered the pronunciation of. you're welcome. I've played Phantasy Star 4 only a few years ago, and it holds up very well, so I definitely recommend giving it a try, as there aren't that many sci-fi JRPGs, so it always feels good to have a new one to test out, even if this is an old one. And this isn't a comprehensive list either. There are a lot of other JRPGs that utilize this idea. These are just the ones that arguably do it the best. I've always been a big fan of the world map, and it's unfortunate that it kind of went out of style back in like the PS2 era. What is interesting is that a recent French RPG, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, kind of brought it back. So I hope that it's a good reminder. Just because something was done in the past and isn't done as much anymore doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad mechanic. So go explore some of these games and their worlds. You won't be disappointed. At least I don't think. Thanks for watching.